off. Good, we are recording, good. So we're gonna talk about each of the minerals, and what I'd really recommend for the practical is that you write down the characteristics that really matter. Yes. Okay? Like having everything about every mineral written down on there is not helpful, because some of the things, like you maybe don't even know what they are, or you're not gonna test it. Like if you had to go through every test on every mineral, it'd take forever, right? So let's do some easy ones here first. Let's knock out the ones that are so super simple you can't get them wrong, possibly. What's this guy here? Yes, fool's gold, right? This was number 7 on your paper if you're trying to keep track. It doesn't matter what number it is, as long as you got the name down. What's the real name of fool's gold? Pyrite. Pyrite, yep. So what makes it pyrite? What do I look at and go, boom, pyrite? Yeah, it is literally the only one that looks like gold. Okay, so if you write down gold on there someplace, that's all you need. If you wanted more than that, it's also the one that has a discordant streak. So it streaks black. If I get a spot on there. It streaks black even though it's quite gold, which is really how you tell if it's fool's gold or real gold. Right? If I had some real gold laying around, then we'd have to check it a little bit. If I had a lump this big, I wouldn't be here. I'd be off vacation somewhere. Heck yeah. So pyrite is easy, like you can't possibly get that wrong. Next one I got here is number 6. Number 6 comes in many different colors. I've only got 2 here. So you might jot down, especially the color of this, it can sometimes be transparent, right? So the transparency is pretty helpful. I can actually see through it, but it doesn't have to be, okay? It can also be white. Like this stuff's a little whiter and a little grayer. So white and gray too, you might jot down. Another thing about this one that's a super big giveaway are look at how angular the pieces are here. Okay, the crystal structure of this is like a little rhombus. It's like a rectangle that's been pushed over on its side. You can write rectangle pushed over on side, because if you see that, that's all you need. But there's one test that's definitive for what this is. What is it, first of all? Calcite. It's calcite, and it fizzes. So that's really the only test you need. And on the quiz, I'm going to put a bottle of acid by something that might fizz. Look at that. Look at that. Both of those should fizz. Now, if you just dump so much acid on there, like it's ridiculous, you're not going to see the bubbly fizzy. But you can see.
What makes it fizz?
The fact that it contains calcium carbonate. And so the acid reacts with that, and you're creating essentially carbon dioxide and some salts and things. So the CO2 is escaping. So we'd totally dissolve that away if we left it, kept dunking it in acid. Okay, so calcite was number 6. So we got some really good things about that. So we didn't even have to check hardness. Like none of that stuff. Like those two is super simple, super easy. Let's do another really easy one. Number 5 over here. What was number 5? Biotite. Biotite, yep. This is biotite mica. All the micas, what is the characteristic about them? Yeah, they're flaky, they're thin, they're flexible. Like, write that down, but the color of biotite's important. Its color is black. So definitely get down black. Like, star these on your paper if you're looking for, like, characteristics I need to know so I know that's biotite. B-I-O-T-I-T-E, biotite. It's flexible, it's thin. A thin enough piece you can actually just about see through. But it's definitely black, okay? I'm not even going to worry about hardness. Like, I know that's biotite. Now, how would I know it's biotite if it's in a rock and there's just tiny little flecks of it in there? Then I might need a nail or something to pick a piece out to see if it really is flaky or if it's something else that looks black, right? If it's a tiny little piece, because usually you're not going to find a piece that big in a rock. Let's do number 12, which is super duper similar to biotite.
But it's silvery.
But it's silvery. So I would write down the color for number 12 as silver to clear. If it's thin enough, you literally can see through it. And the Inuit made windows in their igloos out of this stuff because it's that clear. Yeah, pretty cool. But it's flexible as well. It's another mica. It's muscovite mica, M-U-S-C-O-V-I-T-E. And it does have a silvery look. It can look a little darker, but you can see where it's thinner. It's definitely silver compared to the biotite. So muscovite, biotite. What else do you need other than that it's flexible? I can't think of anything else I need. I don't need to do hardness on this. There's only one thing it can be, right? Okay. Put that one away. Those two were easy. Now we're getting into the harder stuff. Let's start over. Let's see, that's the wrong spot. Let's start with number 4 here. So number 4. So as far as color goes, that's the first thing you notice. So let's write it down. What color do we have? Pink? Well, yeah, there's some lightish color. There's some that has a little bit more iron in it. It does look a little pinkish. So it's pretty white though, really. Okay. You might also try a streak. And as you would guess, its streak is a beautiful powdered white. It's really nicely white powdered stuff. So that it streaks white's helpful. There's another characteristic about this one that it sometimes has. Do you see all those little ridge-looking things in there? What do we say about that? It looks what?
Fibrous.
Fibrous, yep. So it looks like there's a bunch of fibers all lined up like this. And this, of course, is gypsum. Yep, this is the same stuff that's found in the wallboard in your house. If you punch a hole through your wall in your house, which you shouldn't do, you will find white powder in there. It's ground up gypsum. It's exactly what we mine this right here in Indiana.
Why do they use it again?
Why do they use it? I think for a number of reasons. First of all, it doesn't catch on fire. It doesn't burn well because it's a mineral. And secondly, there's some insulative properties about it. Like it helps with insulation, I think, a little bit. And it's easy to grind up and make a board out of rock with. It's a mineral. Yeah, but that's a good question. Other than that, I don't really know. Is this stuff going to react with acid? No. So if you're like, is it calcite? Acid test immediately tells you. So we don't need to write that down because we know that that's not going to fizz. So you could test it if you needed to. So let's do hardness though, because that's another giveaway. If it doesn't have the fibers, I should be able to scratch that with my thumbnail. See how I'm doing that? No problem. So you might jot down not the hardness, but you can scratch it with a thumbnail. Don't just write nail because our other part of the test kit is literally a nail. So the nail will obviously scratch it if the thumbnail will, right? So that was gypsum, G-Y-P-S-U-M. Let's do number 2 next here. Number 2, jumping around a bit. Number 2, as far as the color goes, what did you guys write for number 2? Yeah, so like gray, black, maybe just a hint of green. Okay, you can almost see a hint of green. So this one, you really need to streak. Okay, so if you ever, like streak is a super useful thing because it's kind of a darkish colored mineral, but when I streak it, I'll put a good streak on there, you guys already know. It's quite green, so light green color. So that's definitely what? Chlorite, yep, C-H-L-O-R-I-T-E, chlorite. And the green streak is the giveaway. Okay, so the streak and the hardness, and this should be soft enough that I can just if I get the right spot, I can barely scratch it with my thumbnail. So, also soft enough to scratch with your thumbnail. Okay, you kind of have to find the right spot though. Because some of this is actually, you got some magnetite in it and you'll scratch your thumbnail off on that and get a black streak. Okay, it's usually found together. Okay, so chlorite's done. Let's do this one. This one comes in many different colors. This is number 3 on the paper, and here are a couple. So you might write down pink, white, clear, like all sorts of colors. What about the texture of it? What's the luster of it? How's it look?
Waxy.
Looks a little waxy, but really like it looks like cracked glass. So this is when we say it looks glassy. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Who knows what it is called?
Quartz.
This is quartz, right? The milky quartz, rose quartz. This is quartz. Now, what's the definitive test for quartz?
Hardness.
Hardness. It ought to, if it's quartz, and I get a sharp edge of that thing, I ought to be able to make a very nice, oh yeah, scratch right down the glass. Okay, not gonna do that with gypsum, nothing at all. No matter how hard I push, I'm gonna scratch that thing. So this ought to scratch glass, and I should not be able to scratch it with a nail. I might be able to see I'm rubbing nail off on it. No way can I use my fingernail. It's hard enough to scratch glass, that's all you need to know. Is it gonna leave a streak on the streak plate?
No.
No, because this is harder than glass. So it's just gonna grind the streak plate down. So no streak, harder than glass, looks like glass, comes in lots of colors. It's really all you need for quartz. Right. Now, it can be confusing because it can look like calcite. But if I put acid on it or tried to scratch glass with it, I would know. All right, what do we have left here that we haven't done? We've done that one. Those two we'll save. Let's do this one here. Okay. Let's first write down color because this color is pretty helpful. It's got a nice light greenish color, doesn't it? Greenish, brownish color. That's kind of the giveaway because it's named after sort of a color. Olivine, right? Looks like olives are green, so olivine. There you go. So this is olivine, but other than the color, the thing that I notice about it, especially the samples that I have, is it's very granular. Did you feel that it felt like sand? So you might jot that down, like feels like sand, granular. That's a real good giveaway, especially on the pieces I have. And the reason is that each of the crystals are kind of embedded in there. In reality, if you look in your packet, it says clear to translucent crystals, but unless you look really close, you're not going to see them. Okay. The other thing is that this should scratch glass. You have to push kind of hard because it's so granular, but yeah, it'll scratch the glass. Okay. Right. Don't think it's softer just because with a nail you can flake pieces out of it. It's harder than the glass. Okay, it's hard because this one's granular. It's hard to tell that. So olivine, O-L-I-V-I-N-E, like olives. It's green, harder than glass. The other green one that we had, the chlorite, it's green. It's kind of more darker colored. It won't scratch the glass, right? We could scratch it with our thumbnail and rub that little smudge off. Okay, we've done all those. Let's do this one. This was number 10 on your packet. This is really like, how do I describe this?
Looks like beads.
Looks like what?
Beads.
Beads?
Shiny coal.
Shiny coal? Yeah, it's definitely dark. Okay, so I would write like dark black mineral. It's very coarse. Like, do you see the chunky, coarse crystals in it? Mm-hmm. Like, when I think about this, I think of chunky, coarse crystals, and you can see them reflecting in the light as I turn it around and around here. So, what was this one? Do you guys remember? This is hornblende with an H. Hornblende. Hornblende, like horns. Number 10, yep, hornblende. So other characteristics, other than the fact that it's just a very ugly looking mineral, there's really nothing special about it, it's just a dark colored, ugly looking mineral, is that it will scratch glass pretty easily. Okay, so it's going to scratch glass, it's dark. The fact that it's got chunky, like kind of massive looking crystals in it, that's helpful. Okay. Now let's do this one. This is number 11. These are rocks with a mineral in them. And the mineral is those tiny little reddish colored little dodecahedron looking things. They're like little balls. And they're studded all throughout this thing. You can see them all in there. So if I go to do a scratch test or a streak test, I need to rub it on one of those. Otherwise, I'm going to rub off the rock. Okay. What did you guys come up with for the name of this mineral? Garnet. These are garnets, a semi-precious stone. Oh, you can see them beautiful there. Look at that. Lovely, lovely. All the garnets. These things, if I get one on here, sure as heck ought to scratch glass. Okay, they are hard. In fact, this is the primary component in sandpaper. There's a good one.
That's good.
Real nice. This is, they grind this stuff up and make sandpaper out of it. The cheaper ones, not the gemstone quality ones. But you can see them all studded in there. It's the only one that's going to be in a rock. What about color? I know your packet says red. They're like a ruby sort of red, which rubies are a type of this, actually. A really pure one's called a ruby. You might get down the shape that they're little, kind of little balls, like little dodecahedrons. And they are reddish, embedded in the rock. Okay. So that was garnet, G-A-R-N-E-T. Here's some bigger ones. You can see the they've been worn down and they're very red. Tumbled in a creek. Okay, last two, I think. Yep. These last two are the toughest two. Number 8 and 9 are related. What are they both? They're both feldspars. Dargon feldspars. Okay, let's start with number 8. Okay, trying to find a good sample of this one here. There we go. Okay, number 8. Color for number 8. Okay, so like it's like kind of a gray to a white. Okay, gray to white. That's awesome. It will always be gray to white. Okay, so that's a good thing to note there, is that number 8, which, who can tell me what number 8 is? Yep, this is the plagioclase feldspar. It's a mouthful. Plagioclase feldspar, Plagioclase, plagioclase. The definitive thing about this is not the color, but if I turn it back and forth in the light, I'm going to notice all these little ridges that are actually in the outside of one of the faces. Those are called striations. So don't write striations if you don't know what that means. Okay? But there's literal ridges, so you guys see that when I turn it back and forth, that are in the outside of the plagioclase. Both of these, by the way, are hard enough, and you might jot that down, to scratch glass. So they're both equally hard. Okay, they both scratch glass. They both break some nice flat planes like that. But plagioclase has the ridges in it, the striations. Okay. Let's look at that compared to orthoclase, which is number 9. Look at how similar the colors are there between the two. Okay, orthoclase, plagioclase. The thing about orthoclase is, what color do we got? Whitish color, whitish gray again, but orthoclase also has a pink variety. So if you see pink, you right away know it's orthoclase. So I'd put down pink and white there, because the pink is a real serious giveaway. The thing to look for on these things is something called veinlets. Yep, and I can see it really well in the picture here. There's discolored little like grayish, blackish splotches in the pink and in the white. So I'm going to hold those two there and hold the plagioclase. Plagioclase has those ridges on it. Oh man, that's a great view. And orthoclase has the veinlets, the coloration. So write coloration, maybe not veinlets for orthoclase, or veinlets if you know what that means. Whatever works for you. Write down what you need. That's all the minerals we did.